Welcome to the Soul Sisters series, where you'll get thought-driven, inspiring topics for your soul with Vaughn Solis and Brenda Rachel. Okay, so welcome to Soul Sisters series part 2 this week. I am Vaughn. This is my sister Brenda. And we are so happy to be with you, bringing you thought-led, inspiring information. So welcome to the Soul Sisters. So last week, we covered what I'll just call here our first insight to awakening. We talked about the influence of more traditional, conventional church in our earlier lives and how we moved on into church communities that were, more metaphysical and expanded our consciousness. And we gave you a sneak peek into the work of the angels and how this influenced us and continues to influence us today. We talked about manifesting. Also, for both of us, a sneak peek into how working with the angels has influenced and changed that for us, which we're going to be talking about in future episodes and really help you with that if you want to, work with the angels. And basically the fundamental truths of what has shaped us to become who we are today. So welcome, sis.
Hi,
I love you. I love you too. Brenda and I live next door to each other, just as a little insight. And in our mid to late 60s, this is the first time in our life we've lived as neighbors. And we have come from complete polar opposites of experiences, personality, likes, dislikes, and yet we have found a way to arrive at a very similar point in our lives. And that's what we're sharing with you as part of the Soul Sisters series, in case you have a sibling, and especially a sister, that you love but maybe don't feel as close to, and how you can develop that closeness and get along, even if you don't see that as something possible today, and also how to love and respect those differences. Right, sis?
Absolutely. So I just clarify, we don't live next door to each other in an apartment building.
Yeah.
We live next door in different apartment buildings.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But anyway, the point is we ended up arriving physically also in a very similar situation.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I started the Grief Talk podcast also just to give you a little more context in July 2022. And one of the things I had wanted to do since the inception of this podcast is to have my sister on to talk about some stuff that I don't really get to. I mean, I get to talk to people about it, but it's not the same talking to someone how you arrive at different places, how you get through conflict, how you get through tragedy, how you get through trauma, than with someone who's of your own bloodline and especially a sister. So that is the goal behind this series, is also to touch on those topics that are near and dear to us, but we both have a metaphysical background. We both have worked as angel healing practitioners since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2006. We both certified under Doreen Virtue. And my sister, I was newly bereaved for 9 months, and bless her heart, she didn't want me to go to California alone.
I certainly didn't.
So she went with me. I don't know if you even really wanted to certify, but you did.
I certainly did. Yeah.
And that's developed.
But it was totally not on my path. It wasn't something. It was totally out of the blue.
Yeah.
And completely has changed my life.
Yeah. And we'll be sharing in a future episode exactly how we got into angels and a little bit more of that story, certifying in California, Laguna Beach, actually, with Doreen as two sisters. There was a triplet of sisters there. They weren't triplets, but there was a triplet of sisters there. And I think that was the only other sibling, the trainees.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so cool. And we were like, isn't it cool? There's like 3 of them. And other people were probably like, oh, they're sisters. And there's something special about sisters, right? There's something special about sisters. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, despite our differences, I also want to just add that you and I have many times over the years, despite how different we've been, right? have bought the same card for someone.
Exactly.
And she in Vancouver and me back east in Canada, and we'll give somebody a card and it's like the same one. So anyway, there you go. I guess more alike than different. So today, sis, I just wanted help share our message with the world by let's just having, a nice, totally relaxed conversation as we always do. And I just wanted to talk about our current vision for the world. And the other thing I would like to share with you, audience, is Brenda and I are also both authors. And I've written 3 books. Brenda has written 2 books, and I'm going to be putting links to those resources below. But some of what actually drove me to finally, basically say, let's do this, sis, is me reading your latest book. And I'll just show you, and it's going to be flying, but it's Broken Spirit, Awakened Soul, My Journey of Healing with the Angels. And reading this book just was like, wow, there's so many things about you, like I knew, but I didn't know, not to the degree you kind of shared. Things like rafting and, doing all of these things in life that takes huge courage in my estimation, and a sense of adventure. So you're like the person that I'm going on the rapids. I'm going on the trail. I'm going around that lake by myself, and I'm like, okay, I'll see you in the coffee shop afterwards. No trails for me. No walking around the lake.
Yeah.
Certainly not by myself. And some of those experiences were like, holy crap, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, no, I know. And now when I look at it, I mean, I can't do it now, obviously, for different reasons. But when I did it, but I had my dog. I had my trusty dog.
One thing we do have in common for sure, hey, is we have, how many hours have we talked about what we want for the world, what we want for people to understand, to share, and have joy and have a full life because of, well, basically we've come from dysfunction.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was reading your book, and as I was reading your book, and then I went to mine, and I went, well, wait, what did I say? And so I thought, well, why don't you just go at page 17, right where I have the little sticky.
Okay.
So instead of me just sort of paraphrasing, I made notes on little yellow stickies as I read some things that were really, really impacting for me in your book. Why don't you just read what you wrote on page 17, what your vision is for the world, and then I found what I wrote in mine, in Divine Healing.
Okay. My spiritual vision for all of humanity is that the people on this planet who have an abundance of love in their heart will share it with others, and their inner light, which radiates from this light, love, will shine so brightly that those who are encompassed within their own darkness, created through their own fear, will be drawn towards the light. This will create an opening for peace, harmony, and unity to prevail, and a global healing to occur on our planet.
I love that. I love that.
Thanks.
And so with me, and so a lot of what I'm teaching audience in my coaching is from Divine Healing. And this is my first book that I wrote. So this is what I ended up writing. And this would have been back years ago, up to 2009. This book took me 5 years to write, Divine Healing. But this is what I wrote, and to complement what you said. Manifesting the life of your dreams is all about knowing how to set realistic goals based on heartfelt desires that remain central to your intent to holistically heal. Holistic healing is all about developing a true appreciation for the major lessons you have masterfully created to help you spiritually grow, some of which no doubt will come to you through suffering. By connecting deeply to the more universal lessons of forgiveness, compassion, acceptance, trust, and love, it is my hope that you come away from reading this book with an awareness of the incredible power you hold within to transform not only yourself, but also the world by putting into practice the divine wisdoms the angels have given to us. And so really why I wanted to read that is because both of us as authors over different periods of time. So I guess I knew I wanted to be a writer as a kid, banging out my first, story on an old clunky Olivetti. But I knew that, writing was going to be an intrinsic part of my life. I didn't know how it was going to come to me, and I'm not happy the way it did come to me, which was losing, Janaea, obviously, in 2005, which was my daughter, to suicide when she was 22. And so all of my work that I'll explain to you, audience, all of my work since then has been rooted in my desire to basically not choose to suffer in life. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
So where yours is I think similar, and having the compassion and the kindness and the empathy and for each other and for the world in general, right? So we can have a peaceful place of existence. So, you and I have talked so many times about our work is centered in wanting a peaceful world.
Mm-hmm.
And here we both know that it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and how many times have I said to you, what keeps us going? We came from that sort of light worker term era, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what people are called today, but and how many times have I asked you, right? And we've discussed, if we keep doing this work and we keep holding this vision and truly do believe that light will overcome the darkness, right? And we both believe that.
Absolutely.
But then how do we keep feeling inspired to believe that when it doesn't seem like what we're doing and what other light workers and other practitioners and anybody who's good in this world can't seem to overtake those dark forces?
Well, I think for me, it's just, I'm finding that it's what drives me. It's my purpose. It's my soul's purpose. And I've come to this point through the things that I have experienced. And so every morning, I just ask the angels, what message do you want me to get out today? Or messenger you want me to be? Or if it's just, how can I, if I'm dealing with something that I want to transform within myself to be a better light in the world, then I always start out with having my conversation with the angels in the morning of kind of what's my purpose, not in those words, like, angels, what's my purpose for being here today?
Yeah.
But just, whatever it is that I'm wanting, because it's really hard for me to want to be here with things that are going on in the world and all the darkness and things like that.
Yeah.
When I know I'm here to be a light, and sometimes I feel like there's not a lot of receptivity to the light.
Yeah.
And
wait, I just gonna ask. So couple of things there to maybe help some of you watching or listening to this, but where we all get really dismayed. So I just want to say again, a little bit different perspectives based on experiences and stuff. And I've said many times, no, I gotta live to 100 and maybe beyond, because I have my son, and I don't want to bail on him. And at this point, I'm not really digging too deep into that. Do you want to be here for you? Is it really your family and really him? And but my guess is it is. If it was just me by myself, so I'm going to speak to you, audience, if anyone is like Brenda in that, where, you don't really have another person, you don't have a child, you don't have that. And I think a lot of us live for our kids. I'm not saying we live through them and for them without completely abandoning us, but I think a good number of people who have created offspring find a certain joy, and not everybody, obviously. I know there's lots and lots of dysfunction and things like that. So I'm just speaking to the people that can resonate with me as a mom, having lost one child. But even before that, I would have, wanted to be here as long as possible to support my children.
Right.
That's the best way of saying it.
Right.
And when I feel that person, that child is ready at whatever age to be okay with me gone, which is why I think a lot of parents in older age kind of wait until that moment they said goodbye to everybody and then pick that moment where they can peacefully just drift off. And that's my dream, right? Rather than some traumatic kind of death. But speaking to the person that is alone, but even if you're not alone and feeling that way, right? Because I will acknowledge there are people who have family, may even have children, and they still feel that way for any number of reasons. What would be your sort of feeling about where do we draw that inspiration from? What does it take for us? The bottom line is, what does it take for us to want to push past whatever darkness hasn't been eradicated by the light, to still do our work and still trust that we can have that experience?
Well, I think it's like, when I was laying on the bed, my spinal decompression bed, and it was my last treatment, and that was in 2014 for my back.
Yeah.
And then I was going on to rehab in the back clinic, and I was morbidly depressed going there because I felt like I had it wasn't that my back wasn't getting better, but because my back, it was pretty much still in the same place 8 weeks later, but I had no purpose.
Yeah.
So it was like, why am I getting better? What's my purpose for getting better? And I'm off disability from work again, and there's nothing. There's just nothing. Nothing's been answered. And so anyway, I laid on the bed, and Mom came to me, and she said, Brenny, you have to get your music on iTunes. One statement, and she left. Popped in and popped out. And I went, I knew nothing about iTunes and nothing about how to get my music on there. Anyway, that gave me enough motivation from that session to move forward to my back clinic, because I came to my 5 months at the back clinic, which of course on that day I didn't know was going to be 5 months.
But here, I just want to interject for a second. So it's not that you are, okay, let me phrase that. So it's like you were Mom coming to visit you.
She gave me what I'm trying to say.
Like, were you tapping into your purpose without really necessarily knowing what that purpose is ultimately going to lead you to?
No, I think she was answering the question for me. And because I had been asking, what is my purpose? And I had also saying to the angels, in my bedroom, like a couple of days before that, I had stood there and said to the angels, this was in 2014, when I packed up all my stuff, threw out all my photos. I was decluttering my house.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious choice to do that because I didn't know how much longer I was meant to be on the planet. Not that I was going to do anything to not be here.
Yeah.
Just what was my lifespan.
Yeah.
And so then I stood in the bedroom and I said, angels, take me home. Please take me home. If there's nothing more you want me to do here, or show me some way what you want me to do. And then 2 days later, my treatment, Mom comes through. So she was an answer to what I needed.
Yeah.
Because I still, at that point, there must have been a part of me that was not consciously aware that I still had purpose work to do.
Yes.
That I wasn't done on the planet.
Yes.
Right?
So that's what I think is so important. And that's what I'm saying. I can just sort of see Mom there. Well, I'll deliver the message to Brenny. But it's not like this long-winded script that they're giving us, whether it's a loved one, for people out there listening to watching this. It's not necessarily, if you're lucky enough to have a loved one come to you from the afterlife, it is like such a gift.
Yes.
And the angels can come to all of us.
Yes.
That is accessible to all of us.
Absolutely.
I would say accessing the energy of a deceased loved one, not so much. It is, but because we're so untrusting or mistrusting of that experience, I think we would put more blocks up around having our departed loved one come to us than maybe an angel. I would say it might be easier to learn to trust in those visits. For example, I learned to trust in angelic visits. Right now, I started working with angels. Right, like a few months before Janae died. It took me years to trust her visits because I just didn't think it was possible. And I don't know, it's a weird thing. I mean, I might be unique in that, but I doubt it. But what I'm saying is, so just to recap that a little bit, when we are struggling, so to that one message, which you had no idea what iTunes was, you had no idea where that would lead you, but ultimately it's led you to where you are today.
Absolutely.
Right? Writing your books, doing all your messages, your music, all of that. We're not getting too deep in that, but in Brenda's book, she'll go into detail in that. But the point I want to make here is that when we're in that darkest of places and not wanting to live,
So I will acknowledge here, and I will acknowledge for anyone also watching this, of course, I have not maintained always wanting to be on the planet, especially when Janaea died. I struggled daily, hourly with not wanting to be here. So my little story, similar to what you had, was, so I'm floundering. So again, this is something for the audience I want you to, that we share with you, is we've had drastically different experiences, but struggled with similar things.
Exactly.
Not wanting to be on the planet being one of them. So what I'm getting at here is what it takes to find that spark within, even when you're given a message such as you to put your music on iTunes. You could have said, no, I don't even know. And God knows where you would be today if you'd done that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in my early struggle, now at this point, I will admit I had been working with the angels and very trusting of them. I was less trusting of my ability to be a channel. I didn't even sit there and go, I want to be a channel. I just wanted them to basically save me, although I didn't put it in those words. I was looking for some kind of, anchor to something I could trust and believe in that would ultimately make the suffering worth it. And so I wouldn't say I was consciously aware I was doing that, but looking back, that's clearly what was going on for me in this traumatized and shocked brain of mine. But along with that, and in the human side of that, so you with your back pain, me with my mental and emotional suffering, it was too much to bear, basically. It really felt like it was too much to bear. And so I was not able to be fully present for my son. And I wanted to be, but I couldn't be. So fortunately, he had his dad. And so I was grateful for that. It gave me space and time to kind of, I'm not even sure, but just exist in this abyss of nothingness. And so here's my little story. So one night, so I'm struggling with just every day pushing myself. When you wake up in the morning, people, sis, or if you used to, maybe you don't do it anymore, but when you're in severe pain, trauma, grief, right? And you wake up and the nightmare is still there, and you just basically really don't think you can handle it.
Yeah.
Just be, right?
Yeah.
And then you make a decision, you make a choice to put your feet on the ground and get out of bed. And well, I guess some do and some don't. And if you don't make that choice to get out of bed, I don't know what happens to those people, because honestly, I didn't do that. So something deep within me was still pushing me to get out of bed, brush my teeth, shower, be clean, do a little tiny bit of yoga. Like just, I could barely move, but just, a little tiny. And I didn't know what for. And one thing that helped me, if you're in this situation right now and listening, either in pain, physical pain from like an injury or a disability, or you're in grief, as I said, a bereaved dad once told me to just split my day in 3.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so I did. And so I would like wake up and go, okay, I only have until noon. Okay. And then at noon, it's like, okay, I made it. And then it would be like, okay, I only have till like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever it was. And then it would be, okay, I only have until, bedtime, 10 or 11. And, but anyway, so that really helped. That's a great tip. If a whole 24-hour period feels too much to handle, splitting it at least through your waking hours, it can really help, because it doesn't feel like you have such a big chunk of time, which slows down. Yep. Oh God, doesn't it slow down when you're in like pain and agony, mental, emotional? Oh my God. And it's like, when is this going to end? It's only been 10 minutes. And you're like, oh my God. Anyway, this one night I awakened, and I never slept well, but I awakened. And I was in that, place of sort of awake, but can't move. You're sort of kind of not pinned there, but, aware, but anyway. And this presence, I won't say in that one I felt a physical presence. It was just
speaking to me, and basically very, 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 very to the point, do you want to be here or not? Very lovingly, just very lovingly. And it was, I knew, a simple yes or no. And I said yes. And so kind of like if you didn't do the iTunes thing, I don't know what would have happened if I'd said no. No, please take me. Because like you 2 days earlier had been, asking for answers. Well, I too had been struggling and really, really preoccupied with like what it would be like to choose to basically exit. And that voice which was probably the angels, I'm going to say it was the angels, just said to me, it is simple as a yes or no. And I sensed that's all I had to do is say one or the other and they would make it so.
Yep.
So it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So I think kind of circling back to trying to help people, because we've helped ourselves and I think reached a point comfortably where we don't struggle with that anymore. I have not struggled for years with that, but it sets you on a path that I'm going to ask if you just agree with this, that this choice of, okay, I'll do this. What we're really saying is I want to live. Aren't we?
Well, I'm not like you in the respect that I still struggle with not wanting to be here.
Oh, do you?
Oh, absolutely. But I also made a conscious decision when I tried to commit suicide in 1996 and survived. The angels intervened and I survived, that I wouldn't ever try to take my life again.
Right.
And so I know that I've got the power within me to survive and keep going. And so, but it's just an acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement that, there's not much when I get into that place that, well, there's really not that much keeping me here. And because I already know or believe, I don't know, as I haven't made the transition to the other side.
Right.
That the other side is way more beautiful than here. I already know that.
Yeah.
And will be everything that I can even fathom within my consciousness of how it will be. And so I struggle within myself knowing that.
Yeah.
And saying like, oh my God, why would you choose to stay on a planet filled with so much hatred and animosity and conflict and struggle and strife?
Okay, here's a question for you though. If that's the perspective, and so, hang on. So here's the glass. Do you see it half full or half empty, people? Do you see it half full or half empty?
Well, I think it totally depends on what avenue or what aspect I'm looking at. If I'm looking at it from a world state, like there. The glass half empty or the glass half full for me.
That's your life.
Well, I don't go by life. I go by what's the segments of different things that are going on in my. I don't look at the glass and go my whole life. I go.
Yeah, well, it's just anyway. It's an example, but so what I guess what I want to.
We're coming from it from two different places, and so I don't look. Yeah, I don't even have that kind of consciousness anymore. Glass half empty, glass half full. I just have. Do I want to live in a place where I am surrounded by lots of beauty?
Yes, and that's what I wanted to get to.
Okay.
When we live on Vancouver Island, folks, so we are surrounded by ocean, mountains, forests. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. So my question is, and this is in general, just in very general terms, for all of us who... And also, I just want to acknowledge really quickly that if you are like an empath and or even just picking up energy of places, the world, and we both do that, and it's a lot. And I think millions and millions of people have that ability and feel the weight
So it's
of the world.
That's what I'm saying to you.
But let me ask. I know, but let me just ask a question here. So the question is, perspective-wise, if we can
how do I want to phrase this? If we can, would it be better? I once read a thing from Wayne Dyer that he said, he struggled with not being able in the work that Wayne Dyer did to fix the world, have his work and the work of anybody in related businesses and all of us, right? Have it really impact and basically rid the world of the dark forces.
Right.
And I was struggling that in my earliest grief. And for the first few years, I felt very much like what you're talking about. Well, like, what's the point? It gets very tiring and doesn't change anything. And it feels like kind of the wars and the greed and, just all of that stuff, just the conflict in general. We're ruining ourselves is what it actually kind of feels like. But I guess what I'm not struggling, but curious about, is, well, what if in our beautiful work that we do, and it takes a lot of effort and energy, especially when you keep at it for years, and for anybody else out there acknowledging this, doing their work and contributing and wanting peace, just living your life and wanting peace, people. And you just don't see that. And I'm speaking to the people that have a sense of empathy and do feel the weight of the world, and not people that just, well, my world is fine. Like, I'm talking about this on a greater humanity, scale of humanity here. So, would the effort to just focus on all the beauty we're surrounded by, like, when can that be enough for us? And in choosing to want to be on the planet or not, is it even a fair question to contemplate that should be enough for us? Do you understand what I mean?
Well, I do, but again, our situations are totally different.
I'm just taking it in general terms.
Yeah.
You mean very general terms.
Can this be?
I haven't figured this out myself. Like, I get really frustrated, like, continuing doing good work, right? But I don't struggle with being on the planet or not because I have my son.
Well, you
have Scott. But if I didn't have him,
right.
So, but in just very generic terms for people out there, is there, because if you really didn't want to be here, you would have arranged an exit point. Don't you think?
Well, I arranged
naturally.
Yeah, I arranged many exit points.
No, I'm talking now though, with this awareness.
Yeah.
Now, well, yeah, I'm being very conscious of, I can end this when I'm done. Like, I'm truly done.
Yes, and I have asked the angels to take me home when my purpose work is done here.
Yep.
And I will go when my purpose work is done here. So that is what keeps me going. And so the completion of my book in June, which took me 5 years to write, was the last thing that they guided me to do. And so I haven't got my next.
So that's interesting. So and I don't want to phrase this as, state this for you, but I want to clarify. So would it be fair to say that what motivates you at the moment to stay on this planet, not to just arrange, and we're not talking suicide here, folks. We're just talking, we're talking at a very high conscious level, understanding this concept that if you don't want to be here, an exit will manifest for you, and you're going to go. And the problem with that is that even if we believe that, and I believe that 100%, because that's what that force angel showed me. If you really don't want to be here, it's as simple as yes or no. And I knew they would take me home. Maybe not that night. And it actually kind of scared me. That's how powerful that visit was. It kind of scared me, the truth of that.
Right.
So I've been very conscious of that for 18 years now.
And so in that fear, you made the decision, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah, well, I'm using the word fear, but it was kind of scary to know it was that simple.
No, I know.
Holy crap.
I understand that.
I know you get it. So, but here's the thing. So is waiting for your next purpose assignment, your assignment, enough to keep you here? You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but I'm also saying to you that for right now,
I just choose to be a light worker, however the angels choose to use me daily.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how that's going to unfold.
Okay.
But like I said, it is a struggle for me to stay here. However, like I said, in that struggle, I am making a conscious decision every day to stay here and asking the angels to show me how I can be a messenger for them every single day.
Yeah.
And whether it's putting something out positive on my social media platform,
Right.
or it's talking to a total stranger in a grocery store, I do my thing the way I need to do my thing.
For sure.
And I don't know what the angels have in store for me, but I am absolutely willing to continue doing the light work that I was brought here to do.
So I think ultimately how we come to our purpose work, and especially when we're working with higher dimensions, in our case, angels, however people choose to be doing their purpose work, it's almost like this human struggle with when you acknowledge the soul, the contract, the purpose, and it feels so out of alignment with what we have chosen, because we both believe we choose our experiences. As painful and as much suffering as we go through, it is the foundation of my work. It's the foundation of your work, Bren. So we own that.
Yep.
We've chosen this. How are we going to get ourselves out of this one? But I think that's the dichotomy, is that human limitation of being able to deal with stuff that feels like just an nth of it doesn't even exist in the other realm.
Right.
And so having the awareness of both worlds, and I've gained an awful lot of knowledge and awareness through Janae's visits to me over the years. And so she's proof in the pudding that ongoing consciousness exists. For those of you who may doubt, neither of us are here to convince you. And I've long said, and I believe that you would say the same thing, it's not our job to try and change anyone's mind or convince them of an afterlife, ongoing consciousness, infinity, whatever you want to call it. It can only be experienced for us to interpret what that experience means and will continue to mean for us. And that has largely shaped my entire life since I was 48 years old and the age I was when I lost my daughter. Now, I believed this conceptually before that. And for example, Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul, I mean, I loved that book. But any book I read before then, anything to do with consciousness, creating your own reality, any of the biggies in, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, all pretty much the same people. But nevertheless, I had to reread and rethink, repurpose every bit of that to create a new foundation for my life, because now it was a reality in my life. I didn't have to sit there and imagine an afterlife. Now I needed to know the truth because I really wanted to know my daughter was okay, that Janaea was okay, which is what most people who have lost loved ones, they want to know they're okay. And man, did I get proof. So again, that is sort of, for me, I think that another reason. So I just want to state. So if I didn't have my family and being shaped by my family, where it has become a pillar for me to hang on to, I think I'd probably be a lot like you, in the sense that I don't even know if I could, quote, win the battle though of staying for the purpose and knowing that it'd be a lot easier and different, not here on the planet. So ultimately, I just want to finish off this, and this is all starting by saying, our vision for the world, but it's really important, I think, to acknowledge, because anybody that's going forward, and we've had this conversation, are we going to see peace in our lifetime? I remember a time, correct me if I'm wrong, that you thought it was possible.
Yes, no, and I still do. And I think that there is such a massive whether it's conscious or subconscious, current that's happening right now. That there are changes that are we can't see them yet physically. So, or I shouldn't say maybe some people can. I haven't seen a lot of big changes being overhauled here, but I'm thinking back to like in the 60s with the hippie movement and the free love and all that kind of stuff. And all you heard was peace and love.
Yeah.
Or, in the 60s. And because I was born in 53. So I'm old enough to understand all that's the first sort of consciousness that I was brought into, that I was aware of from being born. So say 11, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Hey, would you have wanted to be a hippie?
No, it was too...
I would have been at Woodstock, I just want to say. Yeah. I mean, and I was a little too young, but I would have been at Woodstock.
Yeah, no, and the only thing for me, I think, with the hippie thing was, like, I believed in the love and the all of that, but it just it wasn't kind of the arena.
I know. I know
I know
you're tapping into the peace and the love, and that there didn't have to be war.
Correct.
Like fast forward decades later, here we are saying basically the same thing, but just in a different, type of environment where war and strife and conflict, it just never seems to go away.
Right.
But I think the other thing, and you and I have talked about this too, is, there are so many beautiful places on this planet. So I do anchor myself in that beauty whenever I get kind of going down a path that like isn't feeling very healthy for me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's depression. And another thing I just want to quickly say here for people who are in grief, I realized in the last couple of years that I really think there's a difference between sorrow and depression. And so I looked up symptoms of depression, and I don't suffer that. I literally don't. But I am acknowledging that when my heart feels burdened with so much sorrow in the world and suffering, and the jury's out for me. Here's a great question on whether we do need to suffer on this planet, that we do need to get our biggest lessons through some kind of suffering. I will include anything in that: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Like, honestly, and you and I don't have the answer for why there is so much darkness and suffering, but I will continue to believe, and I will ask you if you do, and I'm going to wager yes, that the light is more powerful. I'm not sure if there's more or less of it. If there was more of it, I guess I would think that, the darkness would go away. So I'm not sure if the light is more powerful, but that there might seem to be at least more darkness. And by that, we just mean like dark energy, dark forces. So anything that's, all the things we just talked about, war, meanness, there's different levels of darkness, but anything that really doesn't come from a place of pure love and giving and compassion and wanting and respect and, wanting nice things for yourself and each other, to feel good emotionally, spiritually, to feel loved, just to be kind, right? To feel loved and worthy. I'm 100% a believer in anybody that can, go and persecute and literally slaughter somebody else is really coming from a place of incredible fear and lack of love for themselves, where it started somewhere. I like to think every baby born is innocent. I could be wrong, but at any rate, so I anchor myself a little bit. And so this thing about the light being maybe seemingly to us less, but definitely more powerful, it kind of holds those forces in check where they don't take over the entire world. And then so is that what we have to kind of hang on to? Like in those moments, to look at the blue sky and look at the sunshine, and in our case, look at the ocean and trees and mountains and
the gloriousness, if that's a word, the glory of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think that's enough to, and what we do have that's working for us, is that enough to anchor us into wanting to, well, stay here, I guess? And if so, and the other piece to that is, like, why is it kind of criminal in most cultures if you don't want to stay here? For the people that exit on their own.
Right.
Let's just call it suicide. And no, I'm not advocating for suicide, but I am saying, why have we been conditioned to live here in suffering and accept that as maybe just part of the human experience?
Well, if we, I think it is formulated from my own belief, and my own belief is that very basic. I chose to come here, so
Yeah.
right out of the gate, nobody forced me to make a decision to come to planet Earth. So I chose my parents, I chose the family I was going to have and be brought up in, and everything else that has happened to me in my life. And I make that very clear in my book, that when I came to understand this, there was such a freedom, just like where I am now with my choice. It's my choice to think all of the things that I need to think about not wanting to stay here. And so I can change that thought about how I feel about not wanting to be here at any moment. So I'm just being very frank and open and say I have these feelings and they're very real. And these thoughts, because thoughts aren't feelings, and but I do believe thoughts create feelings. That it is a struggle for me to want to be here, and I'm the only one that can change my perspective on this. Not one other person can get inside my mind and flip the switch. So for right now, I am choosing to be here and to live the life to the best of my ability, to be a light worker and bring the consciousness of caring and compassion, consideration, kindness, and respect, which are the 5 traits I follow, and just want to have the most peaceful environment I can have to live in. I think it's very important for me to recognize that I am an empath, and there are many people that aren't empaths. Don't even aren't.
Yeah.
And so, and an empath is one who really feels from their soul place, not just, oh, I feel bad about what I saw on TV or what happened to that family or whatever. I feel it. And
me too.
And I was sobbing when I was 10 years old in front of the TV in our home. We got a TV when I was 10. And I was sobbing, watching something that was catastrophic to me. And Mom came rushing into the living room and couldn't understand why I was sobbing. And I was just so overwhelmed with what was happening to people on the TV.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like it was happening to me. So, when we feel things, and you understand this, you come from a totally different place where from another person that will have an understanding and they will feel bad that that's going on in the world. But they don't feel it from that soul. And you people out there who are empaths and really get what I'm saying, as far as like it just takes over your whole body. You can't help it. You don't sit there and say, I want to feel this way.
No.
You just feel this way.
I think anybody, sis, who is a channel, Brenda and I are both channels for angels, when you have been chosen to, or you choose to be of service, you're going to be used for service in ways you can't even imagine.
That's
right.
Given.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so I think we both knew at very young ages there was this innate kind of, we came to it differently. So
there was this innate thing that we wouldn't have had as children, and we're going to be next episode talking about the dysfunction we came from, but we wouldn't have necessarily, I don't want to speak to you, but I didn't have the capacity to completely understand what I was going to do. But things like banging away on the Olivetti and writing my first story and having a more free spirit, you were more the, straight and narrow, right? And I'm like just left home before I'm 16 and, super trusting and just living a super liberal life. Not kidding, I would have been at Woodstock had I just been born a few years earlier. But what I want to actually say is that, again, what we're acknowledging here and what's so cool about us being able to do this and, have respect for each other's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So while I don't struggle with what you struggle with, so we're not, I think, polarized in that.
Mm-hmm.
We have different reasons for choosing to remain on the planet.
Yeah.
Both totally aligned in accepting and understanding that it's our choice to be here. And by the way, spiritual philosophy teaches this. And I came to this concept in my mid-20s. And it was just, okay. I never struggled with that. I was never like, for all the dysfunction we did come from, and we are going to be talking about, I don't think either of us blamed our parents.
No.
No. The other two kids might have, but it never bothered me. It just, oh, wow. So feeling this and having experiences, I did have out-of-body kind of experiences when I was a child quite a bit. I didn't really understand them, but like the room would get really super big and I got kind of really, it was weird. There was like this something going on, but I wouldn't have understood it, but I could feel it when it would happen. And now that I look back at it, it was probably a little bit of kind of going out of my body a bit.
Nice.
But the thing is, celebrating the differences between us, this is part of that, and understanding and respecting your struggle. I appreciate you sharing that because I think there's probably a good number of people aligned with your experience, just like there are a good number of people aligned with my experience of, child loss and terrible, terrible bereavement, just horrible. You wouldn't wish it on anybody. And still being faced with having to find something that makes us want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is, actually, in a sense of what it is you do want to stay, why you want to stay. The fact is we're making a choice for some reason to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to say is if we're choosing to stay, Dan, make the best of your day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're choosing to stay, make the best of your day.
I love that. Being a poet, right?
Well, we've both written poetry too. So, but you know what I'm saying? Because we only rob ourselves if we choose to stay and then make it a miserable existence. I don't know. We're getting to the top of the hour. We spent the whole time basically talking about that today, which was not really planned. So I'm going to have to leave what we want to talk about till next episode, which is going to be all about exit points. We're going to talk about coming from dysfunction and how it impacts us and you if, you've experienced that. And basically having this desire to achieve, which we're going to be talking about, that from your book, sis. When you state all I have to do is believe, where there's a desire to achieve. And the reason I'm sort of bringing that up now as a prelude to next episode is because it becomes very important when we don't struggle with the choice that we made to stay and do our part, as painful as some of our experiences have been.
Well, I think for me, the struggle leaves and is non-existent when I accept that I'm the one that made the decision.
Yes.
I take full accountability for my choices.
Yeah.
Nobody else is making me stay here. So,
yeah,
or putting the thought into my mind that I want to stay. It's me saying and making my own decision. So
I fully 100% agree with that. So for anyone struggling, I'd invite you to think about that. We're certainly not sitting here asking you to adopt I call it sort of philosophy. It's a foundational principle in my life, accepting I choose to be here. So if I choose to be here, I can't blame anyone else for my circumstances.
Right.
I could probably create a natural exit, even maybe a painless one, but I have found reasons to not let my suffering, right, rob me of that. And so in closing this one out today, which has been awesome, just an awesome discussion, I want to leave you with the invitation to just think about your reason for being on the planet. If you choose to believe you have the power to stay here, not robbing yourself of anything that could be considered robbing yourself of today. Simply put, what you want to make of your experience that you're choosing to align with, I would say. And when you find purpose, it just kind of all comes together, doesn't it?
What I was going to just add to those people who are just in a place of not knowing, of just indecision, and maybe pain, maybe suffering, maybe things have not gone the way that you thought they were going to go. I would just say, if you can start your sentence with, today I choose, and even just saying those 3 words, that empowers you. And it doesn't give the power to any other person over your life. If you're in a terrible situation, living situation, or you're having problems with your children, or whatever it is, work, it could be anything. Even finances. A lot of people are having financial difficulties right now, finding homes, jobs, all that kind of stuff. So just say, today I choose. Today I choose.
I love that. Today I choose. I don't use that specific phrase, but I'm much more deliberate about it now, thinking very momentarily about what's on my plate, and I'm choosing to love every single part of my day because I have reached a point where I'm doing what I love. But we can apply that to the parts of our days that we are going to mostly enjoy, and the ones that we really don't yet have control over, such as reporting for a job you might not like or something like that. Still, I am choosing to look at this solution-oriented. I am choosing to, whatever it is that brings you that feeling of empowerment. We're going to be talking about a lot more about that. I don't expect anyone to kind of grab onto that. If you're already into this type of practice, one of, of empowerment and creating what you want, and you have things to actually demonstrate your success at that. There are still moments that we, doubt and, mistrust or get impatient or whatever. But I just love that, and I'm going to take that with me. I choose to. Very empowering. It's a really great way to start tapping into your place of personal power, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any last thoughts today? Or we covered a lot.
We sure did.
Holy smokes.
Well, I would just say that just treat yourself well. Do something good that you would not normally do. And, think of one thing. Just one thing that you would not normally do for yourself, and just treat yourself.
Yeah, because you deserve it.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for tuning in, if you're watching or listening to this. And thanks for a great conversation. Ready for a latte?
Yeah.
I love you too. Okay, until next week, we are the Soul Sisters.